to South Bend, Indiana, the Battle of Indiana. Notre Dame against Indiana, guys. Indiana's in the college football playoffs as an 8 seed. Uh, yeah, this is pretty crazy. So, I mean, look, you got an Indiana team that they played their big game against Ohio State, and they lost, and they got handled. All right, there was a clear talent gap there for sure. But everyone else, for the people that say, oh, they don't deserve to beat it, they beat the absolute piss out of everyone. They beat the piss out of everyone. And it wasn't just who they beat, it was how that they won these games. Curtis Work looked good in 11 out of the 12 games that he played this year, or it might have been out one game. So, 10 out of whatever it was. He was a fantastic. These receivers have looked great. Surratt, these running backs, Lawton, and Ellison have looked fantastic this year. But on the flip side, Notre Dame, I mean, their schedule, I mean, something that we talked about as being one of the easier schedules in college football heading into the season. And our main talking point for that was because we believed that, oh, this is one. It was more a talking point because one of the easier schedules that they had in several years. Because generally they have a top 10, top 15 schedule. Right, generally they do
in the regular season, right? Not
in the
having
regular
to play
season.
a conference championship. This year, what made it so special was not having to play a ton of road games, right? They played 3 true road games, right? They won all 3 of them, so credit to them. Obviously, their only loss is to, one of the MAC or almost ex-MAC teams, right? Northern Illinois Huskies there in DeKalb. But so they went on the road to Cal Field early in week 1. They got a win there at Texas A&M. Their other road games were at Purdue, who fired their head coach, and at, what is that, 6-6 USC, right? So it wasn't
Yeah,
a crazy gauntlet schedule. And here they are again hosting, right? So they're the home team here. They're gonna have a rowdy fan base, I'm sure. Notre Dame, people love to give them, hate for maybe having a quieter home field advantage than some teams that you would expect that are quote unquote blue bloods, or some of the higher, profile teams in the country. But I have a feeling this will be a pretty rowdy environment.
it definitely will be. The thing is, it's like Notre Dame won the transfer portal, okay, and they got what they believed was a difference maker at quarterback. And he's been good. Okay, I'm not going to knock Riley Leonard and his ability to make plays, through the air if they need it. I don't know that I trust him to do that. Now, this ground game has been, they have just mauled people on the ground. All right, like these last like 8 games this season, they've just mauled people on the ground. The combination of Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price has been fantastic. Status of Jeremiah Love, I mean, his his lines are up on every book that I can tell. So feels like he's likely going to play at full strength. I don't know. Uh, and that is a big boost, obviously. And, also credit Notre Dame's offensive line too. Something that was a huge question mark heading into the season. They've found a way to be a easily top 10 rushing attack in the country thus far. But again, strength of schedule is a question mark, and same with Indiana. And like you talked about that road environment versus the other teams. I mean, I'd rather play in South Bend than probably DKR or uh, the Shoe or at Penn State. I mean, I'd rather play at South Bend. Also, they don't got to travel very far. I mean, they got to travel a little bit, but in Indiana, I think Indiana's gonna be fired up for this game, man. I do think this line that we're picking at is 7.5 here. I think Notre Dame wins the ball game, but I do think Indiana covers this. And it also depends what Curtis Work are you going to get, right? Are you going to get the 2022 Curtis Work? Are you going to get the Indiana the Indiana Curtis Work that you had for 11 out of the 12 games this year, or are you going to get the Curtis Work that's seeing ghosts when he sees one of the best defenses in the entire country on the other side of the field? Because that is what he's going to be staring at. Okay, but even then, Indiana's defense has held up, right? The talent gap at Ohio State, you did see that, but can they just stay within a touchdown, right? Can they stay within a touchdown? I don't know. I'm hoping so. I hope uh, for Indiana's sake that they don't just let Notre Dame lean all over them in the second half and kind of wear and tear them uh, to a win.
The nice part is both these teams did not have to play in conference championship games, so they are, relatively
Hmm.
fresh. It's been about 2-3 weeks since they've suited up, so you get to see some of those bumps and bruises kind of rest up there. You mentioned it right. If Notre Dame's going to win this football game handedly, it's going to be right probably on the backs of Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price. Those two running backs, they're probably the best tandem in the country potentially, right? With the way the Ohio State and the way the Penn State guys have been playing, honestly, I'll take Love and Price as well as Leonard. What he gives you with his legs has been awesome too. 5.8 yards per carry, 700 plus yards on the ground, 14 touchdowns. What he's so good at is those short yardage carries for them at Notre Dame. I will say he did get a lot of flack early in the season in what he was doing throwing the football. It did get a lot better, and you saw it in numbers, you saw it in the film, a lot of things. I will say you look at the teams he's playing, especially those defenses, right? If you want to ask me who are the top four defenses that Notre Dame's played this year and Ryan Leonard has, two of them are from the MAC. And that's no slight to them. Northern
Yeah,
Illinois and Miami, Ohio are probably two of the top four defenses they have seen all year. It's going to be, I think, a step up here, not only coaching wise, schematically, but talent wise. You got some guys in Indiana who really love to get after the quarterback. They're obviously, Kamara and guys like that. They get a lot of hype. Carpenter as well in the interior. They really get after these guys. And plus, you've got some playmakers and Pons and Ashbury in the backfield, in the defensive backfield. So it's going to be very interesting to see. You mentioned it. How is Curtis Rourke going to be playing? I do think the best wide receiving group on this field by a significant margin, I think, is going to be Indiana. Elijah Surratt, Oz Price. You've got a lot Cross. You've got a lot of guys there that can get open. Plus, what Ellison and Lawton can do out of the backfield and give you a little extra juice there as well. Oh, it's going to be really,
they're
really
not that
interesting.
big of a drop off, I think, from Jeremiah Love and Jerry Price.
You think Ellison?
I think Love and Price are better than them, but I don't think it's like an insane drop off. I mean, think about they've been productive against everyone. They were productive against Ohio State generally,
Yeah, yeah.
even when they couldn't get anything through the air.
I will say I think there's a little bit more of a gap than you would think, but I'm with you here too. I've been flip flopping back and forth here. You could convince me either way. I think Notre Dame is going to win. I feel pretty certain about that, just because of being at home is such a big deal. I think in these games, and we'll talk about it more and more with every environment we get to, and more so about the other ones potentially. But I think Notre Dame will win. I will go Indiana plus 7.5, just because I think it might be a closer game. I don't know if Notre Dame has the dogs and the explosiveness to pull away from a team like Notre Dame. I also think too, you saw what Ohio State did offensively is their playmakers like made big time plays against Indiana, right? At times, I don't know if Notre Dame has the horses and the dogs to do it. Like Bo Collins, like he was a subpar ACC receiver for a long time there. Jaden Greathouse, very talented football player, but has we seen it consistently down in and down out? Mitchell Evans, one of the better tight ends in the country for sure. But we're talking about, guys that can make difference making plays on third and fourth down, right? And in the red zone too. Notre Dame's a team that's been pretty good in the red zone, right? They're 10th nationally, right? 75% of their red zone trips end up in touchdowns, which are so important in a game like this with the margins potentially being so small. So it could be really, really interesting as well as third down and all that stuff. But on third down, they're not very good. And I think some of that shows with maybe the liability that is Riley Leonard's right arm. They're 88th in the country, 88th in the country in third down conversions with that schedule, with those defenses they played. I do think that's a little bit alarming considering,
Correct.
right, who's a top 10 defense in third down is Indiana. And yes, you could say who have they played as well, but I think you also got to give them respect for getting off the field and making big time plays on those things. So it's going to be very intriguing, but that's where I'm kind of at with Indiana and Notre Dame in a close one.